Okay, so here's the thing we're not considering.
Okay.
We're always like, Selena can't be the best assassin. What if all the other assassins legitimately suck?
All right, and we're back for another chapter.
Chapter 31. Dorian knew that Chaol had no choice, no other way out of this situation, as his friend carried Selena out of that bloody chamber.
Wait, he had no choice, no other way out of the situation. Oh, then for a moment I thought it was going to be like some objection to Selena being knocked out.
Wow.
But then it must be your only way out was for me to stop it or something, me to help you.
Maybe? I don't know.
It was definitely his magic that stopped the blade.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Out of the, into the servant stairwell and down.
My goodness,
they
really?
reached the castle dungeons.
If you control search this book for down, comma, space, down, comma, space, down,
there'll at least be two.
there would at least be 2 hits.
Down, comma, space, down, comma, space, down, comma, space.
Yeah.
He tried not to look at Caltain's curious, half-mad face as Chaol laid Selena in the cell beside hers.
Oh, whoa.
As he locked the cell
He's straight
door.
up putting her straight to the cell. Straight to jail.
Yeah, right to jail. You strike too fast, straight to jail.
You try stabbing the guard captain in the chest, straight to jail.
Let me give her my cloak, Dorian said, reaching to unfasten it. Don't, Chaol said quietly. His face was still bleeding. She'd gouged 4 lines across his cheek with her nails. Her nails. Gods above. I don't trust her with anything in here except hay. Chaol had already taken the time to remove her remaining weapons, including 6 lethal-looking hairpins from her braid, and checked
How did he know where all her weapons are? 1, 2, how thoroughly has he undressed her? Like, is she naked right now?
He knows where all her weapons are because she's gotten naked in front of him, and it's always been like, oh, another knife. Oh, hairpin.
Another one. But, like, has he undressed her? Is that the implication?
I mean...
Because doesn't she have one, like, between her boobs?
I think he could probably just yoink the short up, pull the knife out, pull the short back down.
Okay.
I don't think she has to be, like, naked as the day she was born.
Okay. He has some decorum. It's one way to miss a knife.
Caltain was smiling faintly at Selena. Don't touch her, don't talk to her, and don't look at her.
Don't look to her, don't talk to her, criminal.
Chaol said, as if there wasn't a wall of balls separating the 2 women. Caltain just huffed and curled up on her side.
Do bars actually form a wall? What is the definition of a wall versus a fence?
Chaol barked orders.
She has nothing to say to that.
Barked orders at the guards about food and water rations, and how often the watch was to be changed, and then stalked from the dungeon. Dorian silently followed. He didn't know where to begin. There was grief sweeping down him in waves as he realized again and again that Nehemia was dead. There was the sickness and terror of what he'd seen in that bedroom. There was the horror and relief that he'd somehow used his power to stop Selena's hand before she stabbed Chaol, and that no one except Selena had noticed. And then she'd hissed at him. He'd seen something so savage in her eyes that he shuddered. They were halfway up the winding stone stairs out of the dungeons when Chaol suddenly slumped onto a step, putting his head in his hands. "What have I done?" Chaol whispered. And despite whatever was changing between them, He couldn't walk away from Kaol. Not tonight. Not when he, too, needed someone to sit next to. "Tell me what happened," Dorian said quietly, taking a seat on the stile beside him and staring into the gloom of the stairwell. So Kaol did.
The stairwell is definitely also the name of a wishing well, except you don't, like, throw stuff into it. You stare down into it until you see something. The stairwell.
So like a really deep scrying bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
More like a scrying cup, if I'm being honest.
More like a scrying cup once you can see down there.
Dorian listened to his tale of kidnapping, of some rebel group trying to use him to get Selena to trust him. Such a dumb idea. Of Selena breaking into the warehouse and cutting down men like they were nothing. How the king had
Like they were Swiss cheese.
How the king had told
Wait. Like they were Swiss cheese and she was a 1,200-pound rat.
How the king had told Kaol of the anonymous threat to Nehemia a week ago and ordered him to keep an eye on Nehemia. How the king wanted the princess questioned and told Kaol to keep Selena away tonight. And then Archel, the man she'd been dispatched to kill weeks ago, explaining that it had been a code for Nehemia being assassinated. And then how Selena ran from the slums all the way back here to find that she'd been too late to save her friend. There were things Kaol still wasn't telling him, but Dorian understood well enough. Okay, what's the point of that sentence then? His friend was trembling, which...
He understood well enough that Kaol was sleeping with Selena.
Which was a horror in itself. Another foundation slipping from beneath their feet.
I have no idea what this is referring to.
Oh, his friend was trembling,
Oh.
which was a horror in itself. Another foundation slipping out from
God
beneath the
forbid that
men
tremble with emotion. God forbid.
God forbid men tremble.
With emotion.
God forbid men tremble. Thighs trembling? This is destroying our relationship.
This is the end. Moral collapse right there.
What's arching? Your back. You have an arch nemesis. What are you arching? His back.
We've gotten so far off topic.
His back. I've never seen anyone move like she did, Kaol breathed. I've never seen anyone run that fast. Dorian,
okay, wait, here's the thing. So Kaol is there not too long after Selena.
Oh yeah, they like
So did he run or did he ride a horse or like... Because surely he was running almost that fast.
We talked about it when it was happening and we were like, I guess he's on a horse. Because it says the bodies are still cooling and they are right behind Hala.
Yeah. I guess they have plenty of horses now because not everyone can ride away.
Kaol shook his head. I found a horse within seconds of taking off,
Yep.
and she still outran me. Who can do that?
A horse can't go through the alleyways and they're scared of stairs.
Dorian might have dismissed it as a warped sense of time due to fear and grief, but he'd had magic coursing through his veins only moments ago. Moments? How long are these moments?
Well, no, the magic stayed until Selena was on the ground in the cell.
Oh, in the
he
cell.
was back upstairs.
Maybe.
Yeah, but again, it's like a vague understanding of time.
Yeah.
A vague grasp of time in your own story.
I didn't know this would happen, Kaol said, resting his forehead against his knees. If your father were... It wasn't my father. Dorian
You sure
said.
are sure about that.
I dined with my parents tonight. Yeah, as if your father...
Your father would never do the dirty work.
Yeah.
He's a king.
He's a king.
Everyone is really dense in this book.
Dorian resting his forehead against his knees. Me. Anyway, our eyes touch as we're holding hands, and we can't help but kiss over your dad's not once, twice, thrice, broken dick. Mix Dorian, mix Dorian. He'd just come from dinner when Selena went flying past, hell burning in her eyes.
Yeah, dude, it's literally not going to be him doing it with his own bare hands. You're an idiot. They're all idiots.
That look had been enough for him to run after her, guards in tow, until Chaol nearly collided with them in the halls. My father said he was going to talk to Nehemia later on, after dinner. From what I saw, this happened hours before that. How were the bodies still warm?
It can take a long time. It could be a warm room.
How long does it take for a body to cool down after it's dead?
It takes a long time for the internals to cool down.
Okay.
From Answers.com. After death, the body begins to cool at a rate of about 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit per hour until it reaches room temperature.
Okay.
Typically within 12 to 24 hours after death.
Okay,
And
I'll allow it. Fine,
Yeah.
I was uninformed.
So like one degree-ish an
4
hour.
degrees, yeah.
4 degrees an hour. 1 to 4 degrees an hour, depending, I'm sure, on room temperature and humidity and the temperature of the body when it died. So yeah, it could still be cooling. Okay, look, last chapter, it was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Now I am once again filled with some sort of feeling towards this book because they're such idiots. Oh no, my father couldn't possibly have been in charge of this. He was at dinner.
He was hawking some ham with me and the fam.
He was hawking ham with me and the fam. He definitely would want to do this with his own hands.
His own meaty claws.
His own grippers.
His tongue. Vicious dog attack. But if your father didn't want her dead, who did? I had extra patrols on alert for any threat.
But apparently
I
they
picked
failed.
those men myself. Whoever did this got through them like they were nothing.
Yeah, because they are nothing.
Whoever did this...
They're a ghost. They're magic.
Dorian tried not to think of the mortal scene. One of Chaol's guards had taken a look at the 3 bodies and vomited all over the floor. And
Fair.
Selena
That's
had
fair.
just stood there, staring at Nehemia, as if she'd been sucked out of herself. Whoever did this got some kind of sick delight out of it. Chaol finished. The bodies flashed through Dorian's mind again, carefully, artfully arranged. What does that mean, though? It had been easier to keep talking than to really consider what had happened. The way Selena had looked at him without really seeing him, the way she wiped away his tears with a finger, then grazed her nails across his neck, as though she could sense the pulsing lifeblood beneath.
Hey, huge news. You can very easily sense the pulsing lifeblood underneath your fingers when touching the neck of a human.
And when she launched herself at Chaol...
It was the sexiest thing he'd ever seen.
How long will you keep her here? Dorian said, looking down the stairs. She had attacked the captain of the guard in front of his men.
In front of his men, how embarrassing.
Worse than attacked.
Worse than attacked? What's worse than attacked that she did?
Almost killed him, I guess? I don't know.
I feel like that goes hand in fist with attacked. When you're Chaol.
As long as it takes, Chaol said quietly. For what? For her to decide not to kill us all. Section break.
Sexy.
Selena knew where she was before she awoke. And she didn't care. She was living the same story again and again. The night she'd been captured, she'd also snapped and come so close to killing the person she most wanted to destroy before someone knocked her out and she awoke in a rotting dungeon.
Here's what I'm hearing. When it matters most, she's incompetent.
She smiled bitterly at
Also, how is the dungeon rotting if this is a castle of stone and glass?
rotting hay.
Oh, you're so right. The straw.
She smiled bitterly as she opened her eyes. It was always the same story, the same loss. A plate of bread and soft cheese, along with an iron cup of
Don't
water,
eat the soft
lay
cheese.
on the floor on the other side of the cell.
It's definitely not pasteurized.
Selena sat up, her head throbbing, and hey, see if pasteurization had been invented by the time frame we were guessing this book happens.
All right.
Selena, let's see.
No, the thing is, though, it's a soft cheese. They often are not pasteurized.
I don't care. Answer the damn question.
Okay.
And felt the bump on the side of her skull. I'd always knew you'd end up here. You'd wind up here, Caltaine said from the cell beside hers. Did their royal highnesses tire of you, too? Selena pulled the tray closer, then leaned against the stone wall behind the pallet of hay. I tired of them, she said. Did you kill anyone particularly deserving? Got an answer?
I have an answer for you.
Yeah.
Pasteurization, as performed by Louis Pasteur, began in the 1860s. So that there could be pasteurization around, but I don't know how long it took for it to become mainstream. Also, why would they be pasteurizing the stuff for the prisoners? Also, it's soft cheese.
Do you think they make cheese for the prisoners especially? Oh, yes. This is our prison budget for the actually, that's probably what happens. I was going to say,
it's not
this
like
is our
they're...
prison budget for the prison cheese.
They pasteurize the stuff for the king. Okay. Everyone else unpasteurized. Unless he likes the taste.
Selena snorted, closing her eyes against the pounding in her mind. Almost. She could feel the slickness of the blood on her hands beneath her nails.
At this point, I'm not sure she has enough on for her to really be slick anymore on her skin. I feel like it's drying, getting crackly, flaking off. Just saying.
Chaos blood. She hoped the fall scratches scarred. She hoped she would never see him again. If she did, she'd kill him.
Like you killed everyone else? Every other time you snapped and tried to kill the person you wanted to kill?
He'd known the king wanted to question Nehemia. He'd known that the king, M-, the most brutal and murderous monster in the world, M-, had wanted to question her friend. And he hadn't told her, hadn't warned her. It wasn't the king, though, M-. No, M-. She had gathered enough in a few minutes she'd been in that bedroom to know that this wasn't his handiwork. Not literal handiwork, at least.
Oh my gosh, they're such... They jump to... I'm not saying it is the king, but I'm saying everyone is jumping to such hard conclusions that it's not the king. That he can't possibly be involved. That this, couldn't be orchestrated by him.
Yeah.
They're idiots.
But K.R. had still been warned about the anonymous threat had been aware that someone wanted to hurt Nehemia. Okay, tell me if this sounds like a complete sentence to you.
Okay.
But K.R. had still been warned about the anonymous threat. Had been aware that someone wanted to hurt Nehemia.
Yes.
That is okay.
That first part is a complete sentence, and then I feel like after the comma, that phrase is just like adding on to it. It doesn't need to be a complete sentence.
Okay.
That is my opinion. I passed English grammar.
A long time ago. And he hadn't told her. I'm adding emphasis, by the way.
That's what you gotta do when you're reading. Otherwise, it'd be horribly monotonous. You'd be like,
He was so stupidly honorable and loyal to the king that he didn't even think that he was so stupidly honorable and loyal to the king that he didn't even think that she could have done something to prevent this.
You just said this wasn't the king.
She had nothing left to give. After she'd lost Sam and been sent to Endoville, she'd pieced herself back together in the blackness of the mines. And when she'd come here, she'd been foolish enough to think that Kaol had just put the final piece into place. Foolish enough to think for a moment that she could get away with being happy. But death was her curse and her gift, and death had been her good friend all these long, long years.
I don't know. It sounds like she doesn't successfully kill people. Had it really been her friend?
They killed Nehemia, she whispered in the dark, needing anyone to hear that the once bright soul had been extinguished. To know that Nehemia had been here on this earth, and she had been all that was good and brave and wonderful. Caltaine was silent for a long moment. Then she said quietly, as if she was trading one piece of misery for another. Duke Parrington is going to Morath in 5 days, and I am to go with him. The king told me I can either marry him or rot down here for the rest of my life. Selena turned her head.
Selena's all, literally, I don't care.
Opening her eyes to find Caltaine sitting against the wall, grasping her knees. She was even dirtier and more haggard than she'd been a few weeks ago.
What do you expect, Selena?
She still clutched Selena's cloak around her.
Dang, we didn't even bring up sexual assault in the book club.
Yeah! The 2 times that it was implied.
Yeah.
You betrayed the king. You betrayed the duke. Why would he want you for his wife? Caltaine laughed quietly. Who knows the games these people play and what ends they have in mind?
Selena's all, you are entirely powerless. You have nothing on your side. You would be completely at the mercy of these people. Why would they want to marry you? I don't know, Selena. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that she would be entirely at their power. She'd have no one on her side. And, yeah.
At least she'd be out of the dungeon. She rubbed her dirty hands on her face. My headaches are worse, she mumbled. And those wings, M-, they never stop. My dreams have been filled with shadows and wings, Nehemia had said. Caltaine, too. What? Let's see.
Do they use the same drugs? I'm sorry, that was insensitive to the dead.
What has one to do with the other? Oh, my headaches are worse than the wings never stop. What has one to do with the other? Caltaine demanded. The words were short. What has one to do with the other? Selena demanded. The words sharp and hollow.
Girl, you're going to have to figure that out for yourself.
She can't figure out anything, actually.
What's her name?
Nehemia's dead for real, for real?
Yeah, Caltaine can't.
Caltaine blinked,
She's
raising her brows as though she had no idea what she'd said. How long will they keep you here? She asked.
I grew bored of you already.
For trying to kill the captain of the guard? Forever, perhaps. She didn't care. Let them execute her. Let them put an end to her, too. Nehemia had been the hope of a kingdom, of many kingdoms. The court Nehemia had dreamed of would never be. LA would never be free. Selena would never get a chance to tell her that she was sorry for the things she'd said. All that would remain were the last words Nehemia had spoken to her, the last thing her friend had thought of her. You're nothing more than a coward. If they let you out, Caltaine said, both of them staring into the blackness of their prisons, make sure that they're punished someday, every last one of them. Selena listened to her own breathing, felt Kaol's blood under her nails, and the blood of all those men she hacked down.
I was literally about to say, it's not just his blood, darling, but she did note that.
And the coldness of Nehemia's room, where all that gall had soaked the bed.
I don't know, them pointing out that it's cold makes me go, Dorian?
They will be, Selena swore into the darkness. She had nothing left to give except that.
She's got nothing left to give her.
It would have been better if she stayed inside her mother, never to come out. It would have been better if she stayed in Indoville. Better to have died there. Her body...
Yep, I agree, Selena.
Her body didn't quite feel like hers when she pulled the tray of food towards her, the metal scraping against the cold, damp stones. She wasn't even hungry. They drugged the water with a sedative, Caltaine said.
Expensive.
As Selena reached for the iron cup. That's what they do for me, too. Good, Selena said, and drank the entire thing. Section break. 3 days passed, and every meal they brought her was drugged with that sedative. Selena stared into the abyss that now filled her dreams, both sleeping and awake. The forest on the other side was gone. There was no stag, only barren terrain all around, crumbling rocks and a vicious wind that whispered the words again and again. You are nothing more than a coward. So Selena drank that drugged water every time they offered it, and let it sweep her away. Section break.
We love that consensual drug use.
She drank the water about an hour ago. Vess said to Kaol on the morning of the 4th day. Kaol nodded. She was unconscious on the floor, her face gaunt.
That's a lot of sedative. I'd be concerned about overdoses, with as often as they're giving it to her.
Has she been eating? A bite or two. She hasn't tried to escape, and she hasn't said one word to us either. Kaol unlocked the cell door, and Ress and the other guards tensed, but he couldn't bear another moment without seeing her. Caltaine was asleep next to her, and didn't stir as he strode into Selena's cell. He knelt by Selena. She reeked of old blood. Her clothes were stiff with it. His throat tightened. In the castle above, it had been sheer pandemonium for the past several days. He had seen men combing the castle and the city for Nehemia's assassin. He had gone before the king multiple times already to try to explain what happened.
Okay, here's what could make me even more upset about Nehemia's death. Ready? If she planned it.
Or like if she had herself assassinated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simply to get Selena
we
going.
already know that she already, agreed to die.
Yeah, but it could be, she simply knew that if she didn't do something,
anything,
then she would get killed. But versus, I have to die so that Selena will get her butt in gear. Hey, you come kill me horrifically.
Yeah.
Or at least, make it look horrific. You could, just drug me and kill me before, and then make it look terrible.
Yeah.
But, I would be even madder about that. We're at 28 minutes right now.
Okay, well, we got a page.
All right, let's finish it. We're zooming.
How he'd gotten himself kidnapped, and how, even with extra men watching Nehemia, someone had slipped past them all. He was stunned the king hadn't dismissed him, or worse. The worst part was that the king seemed smug. He hadn't had to dirty his hands to get rid of a problem. His main annoyance was dealing with the uproar that was sure to happen in Elway. He hadn't spared one moment to mourn Nehemia or show a flicker of remorse. It had taken a surprising amount of self-control for Chaol not to throttle his own sovereign.
Once again, desires for violence. But I mean, I guess it could be
this one
somewhat fine. It's just he has it so often. Who knows?
This one doesn't seem insulting to me.
Yeah.
But more than just his fate relied on his submission and good behavior. When Chaol had explained Selena's situation to the king, he had barely looked surprised. He just said to get her in line and left her at that. Get her in line. Chaol gently picked up Selena, trying not to grunt at the weight, and carried her out of the cell. He'd never forgive himself for throwing her in this rotting dungeon.
He'd never forgive himself for doing that?
Even though he hadn't had a choice. Just like he'd never forgive himself over Cain.
Oh, yeah. Halfway through next book, never come up again.
He hadn't even let himself sleep in his own bed, M-Dash. The bed that
he slept in hers
smelled
instead.
like her. He'd laid down in it the first night and realized that what she was lying on, and opted for his couch instead. At least the least he could do right now was get her back to her own rooms. But he didn't know how to get her in line. He didn't know how to fix what had been broken, both inside her and between them. His men flanked him as he brought her up to the rooms. Nehemia's death hung around him, followed his every step. It had been days since he'd looked in the mirror, even if it hadn't been the king who had ordered Nehemia dead. If Chaol had warned Selena about the unknown threat, at least she would have been looking out. She had been looking out.
Like everyone else was looking out.
If he'd warned Nehemia, her men would have been on alert too.
Well, shouldn't they always be on alert? Come on, your guards.
Sometimes the
of a
reality
princess in a hostile land.
Sometimes the reality of his decision hit him so hard he couldn't breathe.
Hey, what happens to the rest of her guards? Because there was only 2 in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surely she had more than 2.
I think she did. I bet they would never be mentioned. And then there was this reality. The reality he held in his arms as Ress opened the door to her rooms. Philippa was already waiting.
Of course she was.
Beckoning him to the bathing chamber.
All right. What is Fleetfoot going to do?
Nothing good. He hadn't even thought of that, M-Dash. That Selena might need to be cleaned before getting into bed.
Idiot.
He couldn't meet the servant's gaze as he walked into the bathing chamber. Because he knew the truth he'd find there.
Why would she have any opinion?
In the moment Selena had
judgy.
Turned to him in Nehemia's bedroom, he had lost her, and she would never, in 1,000 lifetimes, let him in again.
Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. All right, my main takeaway from this chapter is I can still be easily worked up over things like characters being exceptionally dense. I had to say that right into the microphone.
Give me that yarn. I'm trying to use it in my project, so I gotta undo it.
I just quick crocheted a bunch of yarn.
You didn't
no crochet hook.
You didn't quick crochet. This is a chain stitch.
I chain stitched it, yo!
It's a slip knot.
It is a slip knot over and over. It kept me somewhat focused so I wasn't interrupting at every turn.
Man, getting my thread walked up that I wanted to use.
Oh, so sorry. All right. Bye, everybody.